Nothing changes instantaneously. In a gradually heating bathtub, you'd be boiled to death before you knew it. Our Father, who art in heaven. Seriously? What the actual fuck?
Gilead doesn't care about children. Gilead cares about power.
Why does healing have to be the only goal? Why can't we be as furious as we feel?
For whatever man sows, so shall he reap.
Welcome to Above the Garage.
Hi, friends. I can barely manage to intro this through my excitement, but today we have the incredible pleasure of having Ever Carradine and Stephen Kunken, aka the Putnams, together again, reunion after death, on our podcast. So welcome, you guys. Thank you so much.
Hi.
Hello. I'm allowed to be alive and speak. I'm very excited about that.
Just today. We're so happy to see you together again. You must have missed each other's faces too, but we like seeing you on our screen again. Ever, it's only 8 there, but have you done your Wordle yet?
Yeah, I think it was in 5, which is embarrassing. Let's see.
I got 5 yesterday, even though I got the last 3 letters on like the first try. My word was about
3 today.
3. There's a lot of words that end in O-U-T.
Quirtle was a disaster. Do you guys do Quirtle?
I quit. I only did Quirtle at the Shangri-La, like only in Toronto. I don't know.
Right.
My daughter does a geography one where they show you a street and you have to like guess where it is in the world by like looking around.
Oh yeah,
That's
there's
fun.
a movie one like that too.
That's hard.
Where you like guess what film it is.
See, there's so many.
Oh, that sounds good. I might be good at that one. I'm terrible at Wordle.
Last Wordle question. Do you guys use the same word every day to start with? Or is it
I
like
do.
how you're feeling?
I'm going to use it until I get it.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good
Yeah.
strategy because you'd be so sad if you switch it and then it comes up.
My friend did that. He changed his first word and then it was that. And I was like, I'd have to kill myself.
That's never going to happen to me. Yeah. So before we get to the fun stuff, a small bit of business first. Stephen, Hulu has asked us to conduct your exit interview. I guess they realized that we do it for free. So please be honest, this will not leave the room, but can you dish on all of your coworkers, please?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, do you want to start with the affairs first? Who's like,
Yes. Please.
Okay, we'll
That's
start
all we
there.
Yes, in fact, we do.
Good.
Whose trailers are...
Right, good.
Rockin', they'll come a knocking if the trailer is rocking.
Right.
Probably Bradley and Max, right?
They just cuddle.
That's probably the most likely.
They're just cuddling.
Yeah, they cuddle.
Are you gonna dish?
You guys, he's not going to dish. I wish he would. But that's the thing. You guys, like, it's so clear that you all love each other so much and it makes us love the show more. Like at TIFF, every variation of cast combo picture we got after a year of nothing, by the way. It was just like this treasure trove of you guys having fun with each other.
If only we had fun on that trip.
I know. It just, I'm sorry you had to do that.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Must have been
It's also, it was
awful.
cool. It was a cool trip because in this show, because the worlds are so segmented, we don't always intersect. Like
Right.
people like OT and the Putnams don't really like, and Ever and I, we don't really have a huge amount of crossover. And so it was
Right.
great to be an admirer of some of the cast's work and not really having clocked that much time, with them, especially during COVID, which is basically like you get to see the person you're working in a scene with, and that's it, unless you want to like test 50 more thousand times.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, I think I crossed over with OT one time in 5 seasons in the makeup trailer, and that was this year.
Wow.
Wow. Just because you're filming on the same day. Because
The set might have maybe June's house was the same. I don't even know, but we were like,
Right.
Hi, I've never seen you here before.
Yeah.
It's a really strange
That's wild.
experience.
Yeah, because you've made your characters on the same show for 5 years and you never encounter each other.
And also like just being at TIFF and being able to, because of COVID, we didn't get, you don't really get a wrap party. Kunken and I come in and out, we don't live in Toronto. And so it was just fun to celebrate what we all made together, not to sound Pollyanna, but it is sort of fun to have to celebrate it.
No, we're all the thing that's interesting also, and this is true for a lot of shows, because I think you have to kind of drink the Kool-Aid at some point, because you're going to work really to a person. We're all fans of the show as well. And
Absolutely.
we genuinely watch it and because again, even if you're Yvonne, or maybe not Lizzie so much, because Lizzie can track through an entire episode from moment to moment, but there's big swaths of it that you don't see until we see it with you, and we're all really excited about it, and so it is exciting. There's times I remember being on set when the Red Center blew up, and was that season 3. And there were handmaids whose work I love, like Kira and people where it was just like I hadn't seen them in the flesh, and since maybe the first 3 months that we worked, and it was great to like reconnect because you become a fan of those people's work.
Right.
That's my favorite thing that Lizzie says when she's directing and she's at the monitor, and then she yells cut and she comes out and she says, it's like I was watching the show. Like when she's so kind of in it on the monitor that it feels like it's Hulu. Yeah, I'm a giant fan of the show. I devour the scripts. My husband doesn't know anything that's coming, so he did not know about Mr. Putnam's exit until 2 weeks ago when it aired, and to say that he was heartbroken is an understatement. He's still getting over it. He's like not okay with it. I'm
a huge fan of Ever's husband, Kobe. So we now we ride off into the sunset, clearly.
Exactly.
My Spirit and Kobe go off into the sunset.
How far in advance do you get? Like, did you know that you were gonna get the chop?
I found out it was
so
fascinating.
Sad.
We were at the wedding. I'm not the wedding. Sorry, we were at Fred's funeral,
honey.
It was kind of a wedding for me. It felt kind of exciting.
Very joyous occasion.
It was not so bad for Putnam. He sat at the dais. He was very happy. But I found out there was a freezing cold day, and we were sort of going in and out of a holding area.
Some of us were standing actually out on the street all day in high-heeled boots with.
Oh yeah, right. Those I forgot you guys were doing that.
You had soup.
I was in a suit and an overcoat, and I had little like ear warmers. It was great.
Very warm.
But I was still complaining, I'm sure. But I remember we were going in and out of holding, and it was like lunchtime, and suddenly I got a phone call from my agent who wanted to relay this information, and then I heard later on, and it was like, there's going to be a glorious end soon enough, and it's as a fan of a show, and I truly mean this, there are a few things that I know to be true, and I think in this great moment of like prestige television, or this that we're in now, one of the things that really makes shows like The Sopranos and Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad work is that from week to week you tune in and don't know whether your favorite people are going to exist, and I think that's unique. It's not like Star Trek of old where everyone went down to the planet but your favorite 6 people are coming back every week, and depending on what color shirt you were safe or not. So I've always said, and Ever and I have had this conversation before, I think it's like if you can just continually move chess pieces around a chessboard and none of the pieces get picked up, you lose the veracity of the world that you've built so hard, you've worked so hard to build. And so when I found out it was my time to go, especially after.
Can I tell them what you texted me?
Sure. I don't even remember.
Well, he got a call. He's like, my agent call, I don't know. And then I think you went and took the call, and you and Max had been like watching football and soccer. And then you just picked up your phone and you looked at me and you texted "dead man walking."
Oh no.
That's so sad.
It was really sad.
Yeah, I would have cried. This was at the funeral though that you
Yeah,
found
so
out?
we were dressed for it. Like it was fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's like 2 for 1.
Let's just do it now.
Yeah, let's just shoot it now. Let's shoot it now.
Did you see it coming?
I saw, it was interesting. There's another sort of behind the scene thing. So I filmed the scene with McKenna before we did the pool house scene. So those followed on.
For those who aren't remembering, it's when Stephen Kunken feeds McKenna a piece of chocolate.
Oh yeah.
We will never unsee
I'd
that.
forgotten about that.
I offer her chocolate. We're sharing chocolate. That's really what it is.
It was very nice scene.
But so in between those 2 scenes, we went to the pool house, and my entrance into the pool house is sort of delayed a bit. And for some reason, we didn't know why. And I knew when we filmed that first scene that this was not good. Now, whether it was not good because it happened directly following on, or not. I didn't quite know because I didn't know. I knew Putnam that wasn't going to be a great moment for anybody involved. But
the truffle alone was not good.
The truffle alone was not good. The truffle was good, but
I bet it was amazing.
But Lizzie came to me outside and she's like, maybe you should be a little disheveled, and basically was like, what you think may have happened, we've gone back and forth, it happened. And I kind of knew at that moment that, like, again, getting to the truth of these worlds, if you're gonna be really, really bad at, as I've said, if you kick the puppy, like in Benji, you're good, like the movie Benji, which still haunts me to this day. It's like, if you kick that dog in Benji, you're going to jail. And in this world, jail is basically you're taking one right between the eyes. So, and well, he should have.
Stephen, I when you mentioned Sopranos a minute ago, I'm watching that show for the first time right now, which I realize I'm like 2 decades late for this.
Good.
Oh, so good.
I saw you pop up in it and I didn't know you were in it.
Who do you play?
I play Janice's ER doctor, and I basically, like, I don't remember what ended up remaining in it, but there was something about insurance.
You pretty much just said they could go. You said something about, you're fine.
Like Svetlana's leg. Didn't she like steal Svetlana's leg? I forget exactly. And it was like one of those jobs that I was not that long out of grad school. And
was Gandolfini in your scene?
Is he? I think he might
be. He's sitting there with Janice. Yeah.
Oh, how could you forget?
But at the time I didn't watch it. And I told a couple of people, I was like, I'm doing this show like this, it's the Tenors or something, the Sopranos. And they were like, you better know what that is, because it's pretty fabulous. So
yes.
I also appear, like, I'm in an episode of Gossip Girl that my daughter and all of her friends have rediscovered Gossip Girl. And like, they're like, did you come in? And they flat ironed my hair. And they were like, I've become the laughing stock of hers.
Well, I've only just 2 weeks ago have done a show that my kids can actually watch. So at least you have Gossip Girl.
And what is the one you did?
The Connors.
I did the Connors, which we can all watch together as a family.
Yes, that's lovely. Mm-hmm. Well, they're getting older. They're going to watch your work soon. I'd be nervous if I were you guys.
I feel like Handmaids is probably a few off. It's probably a few.
Hey, my daughter was on the set. My daughter Naomi came to the set.
His daughter's name is Naomi, everybody.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Oh my God, he named his daughter after you.
I was like,
before even, that's amazing.
13 years ago, I was like, you know what's going to happen? It's going to be awesome. Trump's going to win. We're going to do the show. It's going to be awesome.
That took a turn.
Yeah, that took a turn. No, my daughter was on the set the day I got bulleted.
And that was also, that was our last day together.
Yeah, Eva said he filmed other stuff afterwards.
Right. Yeah, that was Eva's first day.
That's wild. Yeah, that's insane.
And by the way, your podcast with Eva was fantastic.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you for listening.
Yeah,
it really was.
She's an easy to talk to human being.
Yeah, she's amazing. Yeah,
she was amazing. And it was so interesting. I don't always listen to the podcast, but that one was not yours, but I mean just about the work, because sometimes it becomes insular in a way that you don't want to know. But that was fascinating. I don't know if you listened to it ever.
I haven't listened yet because I saw that it had dropped, but I listened to the like breakdown of the episode. That Eva's one wasn't up yet, but
she's so smart and clear, and she's great.
Yeah, she's incredible.
But like also for us, on this show, you don't get a lot of, sometimes you meet the director on set. There's no rehearsal, none of that. And Eva, because we were there and she had a little time, she either Zoomed or met with each of us to sort of discuss what was coming. And I think on that scene, especially, I think it was extremely helpful for her to, not have to do it on the day because it started fully snowing by 1 p.m.
Right.
But, for me, like it was written that Naomi like runs to his bloody body sobbing. Right. And I was like, it's all happened too quickly.
Yeah.
She's amazing. She's an amazing human.
Yes. I didn't realize, I don't know. It just seems very hard for a new director to come in and do this block and not know you guys. And then it's a lot.
On TV, it's a different, TV is because we've been with it, if you're doing a film, you're director of a film, you're basically the captain of a ship, and the ship all leaves the dock at the same time. And
right.
But in TV, you're 5 seasons into what people know about the character and the world building, and so it's a really hard thing, because actors also really want and need a director, but they just need an informed director. So if you don't do your homework, it's like you can be like, well, I think he's really mad, and you're like, no, these two characters really love each other. Or
that's what's so magical about Lizzie coming in, is because Lizzie's worked with all of us, so she some actors like to have a lot of conversations about things. Some actors like to just try it a few different, like to be left to their own devices. And she knows how we all work.
Right.
And she knows these characters, and her little cheat sheet is she knows what's going to happen, I guess.
Yeah.
We just watched episode 9.
Oh, Kunken.
We did.
I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
You guys are ahead of me. I know what's going on, but I haven't watched episode 9 yet. But
you've been replaced. I'm sorry.
So by somebody great, right? Like somebody like really
gone but not forgotten.
I've been replaced. I can't be replaced, but
true. He can't be replaced.
Is the proposal everything you want it to be?
It's so good.
Oh my God.
It's so good.
It is amazing.
It's so funny.
It is so funny. I just laughed like throughout the entire thing. You are so like perfect. Like, what is this, a marriage proposal? I'm sure around Bradley there's a lot of
no,
Brad's very serious all the time. Wow, that was
that was impressive. Well practiced.
When Lizzie read the engagement scene, she was like, we need to block out 9 hours, because Brad gets to be funny and you get to be funny. We're never gonna make our day.
It was worth it.
Yeah, we kept it together.
My favorite part was when Lawrence says, you should be rewarded for putting up with, I'm sorry, Stephen, but Putnam. And you said, I get a reward?
Yeah, you were like excited by reward.
Hey, what does that mean? Yeah, that was a fun day. It's a miracle we made it through. It's not joyous, no, Kunken. Naomi's a little sad.
You're definitely not as rich. Let's put it that way. I think you've come down.
No, and I'm definitely like sussing out Lawrence's place, and I'm like, I guess if we like whitewashed the walls and ripped out the sofas, I could work.
I literally thought of that. I was like, I cannot see Naomi in this house. He has to move to her house. Like,
I loved the bit about imagining Naomi in a condo too. That was a delight when she was saying, "Oh, I'll move into a condo with the baby."
Yeah, Kunken, I asked for just a small condo in Back Bay.
You asked for that?
Yeah,
she did.
And then Lawrence was like,
I'm not your realtor.
Yeah, Lawrence said, I'm not your real estate agent or something like that.
Yeah, it was really, that was like eating a chocolate cake. That was a fun, sweet.
That was a great scene.
Yeah.
How do you think Naomi feels about Warren being gone?
I think it's all happened so quickly. Like, I don't think she's even digested that it happens, because it was funny when we were filming Fred's funeral. There's this scene. I don't know if it's in it anymore. You sort of see Naomi and Warren come into the room together, and Lizzie came by us and was like, you guys probably haven't talked to each other in months. And I was like, oh my God, that's probably true. Separate rooms, separate parts of the house. And so I think she's in shock. And I think in 10, it becomes much, much, much more a reality.
Okay.
We talked to Leslie, costume designer Leslie.
I have to say, Leslie hit it so out of the ballpark. It was my favorite fitting. They made me something based on measurements that zipped up. It's great. She's such a wonderful addition to this.
She loves you guys.
Yeah. Are you filming Billions at the moment, Stephen?
We just had our read through of the beginning of the season. So we're about to start. And then we're going to roll through probably the summer. So
I love Billions. You're on two of my favorite shows. Yes.
It's a really fun show to be on, especially because it films, 3 exits on the Brooklyn Queens Expressway from my house, which is very,
well, that's very handy for you.
I had the weirdest Billions run-in at Target here in like the Philly suburbs. Somebody behind me said, oh, I like your shirt. So I turned around to look at the guy's shirt, and it was like a wrinkly button down. And I was like, all right, whatever. And then either she said something else or he did. And then I looked up and I saw, I don't know how to say his name. He plays Mike Wagner, David Cust.
I want to hear it. Give it a shot.
Costabile? I don't know.
No, Dave Costable.
Costable is easier.
Very close. Costabile.
I like
He's
Costabile.
probably one of the most unique people to randomly see behind you in a Target in the suburbs of Philly.
Yeah, he's a fantastically fun, brilliantly smart guy, and not wags at all. I mean, like one of those things that's very fun to sort of realize that he's just a good guy. I mean, he's quick-witted like Wags is, but he's not, as brutish as that guy can be.
I figured out after I looked up that they had said, "I like your show, not your shirt." So it made a lot more sense afterwards, because
Costabile might have worn something really nice.
Thank you for making me do that. Okay. For our listeners, we boldly and nervously asked Ever and Stephen yesterday if, on top of donating an hour out of their lives to come on our show, if they would also do some homework in advance, which is rich coming from me because I hate my kids' homework. But anyway, they kindly agreed to answer a few questions about their thoughts on the Putnams relationship pre-Gilead. So you didn't cheat.
It's going to be great.
I'm proud of you. The Putnams, I feel like, would cheat on the assignment. So you're off to a good start.
100% they would cheat.
So, Ever.
Yes.
Where do you envision Naomi and Warren met?
So fascinating. I can't wait to hear this.
I know. It's so fascinating because we're now in season 5. So I never sort of went back. I've just sort of followed the train and the writing. I feel like they met like in college at a mixer, and Naomi probably got hammered and they hooked up together. And then he tried to leave and she was like dramatic and grabbed his ankle and let him go. Like I think there was probably a lot of nutty fights in the beginning.
Is this freshman year, like first day mixer?
Totally. Maybe it's even like fast week. Do you know what I mean? Like before it even started. Yes. And she's like, that one's mine.
And that is it for them.
When you say first day mixer, what does that mean? Aussie here. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, I just meant like early on, like right at the beginning of school.
Right. Okay.
Like freshman year, you've just gotten there.
Freshman, that's like your first day.
Oh yeah, I'm still speaking a different language to you. Sorry. First year of advanced education. What do you call it in Australia?
University. I'm not.
University. Yeah.
So first year university mixer, like a drinks.
Got ya.
Drinks.
What do you think, Kunken? Do we both answer the same questions?
Yeah, I want to know how different they are.
I think we met. I'm sorry to jog your memory because you forget clearly where we met was between. I think we met between college and mine going to business school.
Ooh, so fancy.
I think Putnam comes from generational wealth that. We'll get into, I think, because I know we have questions about what we think their vocation is. But I think we met at a country club. I think there was like a fancy country club.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I think you showed up. There was a tennis tournament, and there was a mixed doubles tennis tournament.
She's in all white. Yeah.
And I think I even know if they met in Boston. I might even know what country club.
And I think it was there, and Putnam was like okay with tennis, but you were like really good. And you showed up in your whites, and he was like, "Wow." And then
she'd look hot in her whites.
Yeah, she definitely had a short skirt.
You call that a serve, Warren? You call that a serve?
I was like, all right. And I took private lessons after that. I was like, I actually got to get better. I'm not so good.
Yeah, you got to be impressive.
I pursued you.
Oh, that's so funny.
I love this so much. Next question: where was your first date? You want to stick with Ever going first?
No, I'm let Kunken go first.
I'm stealing this one directly from my actual wife because it seems to fit in for us. She always tells me the story about how there was this guy who went out, took her on a date and was so overblown that she almost was like, I'm done. I don't know what this could. And so basically he picked her up, and this was like when she was like a bartending, my wife, way back when, and this guy picked her up in a limo and drove her to like a helicopter pad and took her on like
oh my God,
a helicopter. He was like a Wall Streeter, and he took her on a helicopter ride around Manhattan.
Oh my God.
And it was like their first date, and my wife was like,
Jen like, peace, I'm out, lose my number.
Peace, I'm out. Yeah, she was like, lose the number. And I think I did something kind of large scale like that. It was like, I'm gonna take it.
But that's Naomi's thing. I can see that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll piggyback. Like, I think Naomi's like, where do you keep the PJ? Like, what's the plan here? Yeah, I think that's great.
And the rest was history.
Because I always say, Leslie and I talk about this, and in hair, like Naomi's like a little extra. Like I always want the bun a little extra, it's just always like just a touch too much. And so I think if Warren did do that, she was like, this is my person. He gets me. He gets me.
I love it.
Okay, so marriage of love or convenience, and also how did Warren propose to Naomi?
Start with that.
Okay.
Especially considering episode 9's in.
True, that's true.
Well, I mean, now I think clearly a marriage of. No one's going anywhere in Gilead. How did he propose? I feel like he did the extra. Probably maybe he got a like the duck tours in Boston. Maybe he chartered the duck tours to take her to the common and then found a ring hiding under the row of ducks near Charles.
That's so romantic.
What do you think?
Good job, Warren.
I'm getting the sense you think we have always lived in Boston.
Yes, I do. I think they're from Boston.
All right.
I just hung on. Well, also because Boston's a city that I know. And so I feel comfortable pretending that my fake
You live there. It helps to know it.
Why? What do you think?
Well, it's going to get into what I think my job is. So can I
go for it? This is not need to be.
All right.
But he's going off book. He's jumping ahead.
I'm jumping. I didn't do any work. He's done
his homework.
Let me just get my notes. 1 second.
Let me just pull up this spreadsheet. So no, I think Warren is, because I know a couple of people who do this that are like, I think his family made money, kind of like wartime money, and back they were sort of
on the up and up,
steel or something, or
it's not quite so like All My Sons. It's not, it's not Arthur Miller's, but I think somebody was part of the war machine. And back in the World War II, made with steel. I think that he may have grown up outside of in a wealthy suburb of Pittsburgh or something.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think what Warren was really good at was logistics, and sort of moved it along the line when it got to him. And I think he's got a huge sort of company that moves things around the world. Does a lot of shipping and organizes transport and
importing and exporting.
Vanderlei.
Yeah, and it has a lot his head understands global commerce in a very large way. And I think when I proposed, because I did a lot of shipping and packaging, I think I sent you I called you and told you I sent that there was an order that got messed up, and I shipped hundreds of giant packages to your house that they all arrived, and you just had to take in all of these orders of packages, and then in one
the packages are here. Packages are here.
But then I think I shipped myself in one of the packages.
Oh my God.
And then you opened it up and I was in there with a ring and a tuxedo.
See, he knows Naomi's a little extra.
That's right.
That is more than a little extra, and I love
very
it.
dramatic.
I feel like you've had these answers in your head and you wanted to answer them for years now, Stephen.
I think they were just bad ideas I had about how I was actually going to propose to my wife, and was like, nah, I'll just give it.
You just recycle them for me.
Right, totally.
Thanks, babe.
Do we get to know how you proposed to your wife now?
In real life? In real life, I wrote my proposal inside of a fortune cookie. And I did the font. I put it back in the fortune cookie, heat sealed the bag. We went out and had Chinese food, and we were going to have, we were walking around, and I kept saying we should go for a walk. And, because I was going to propose it outside of on this country walk that we always did. And she was like, it's raining. I don't want to go for a walk. Yeah. And so it had to wait an extra day.
Oh my God. I have to tell you mine after this. This is so good.
Go ahead. I want to hear yours.
I want to hear what happened.
You waited a whole day?
I had to wait an extra day because my wife was like, I don't want to go for a walk. It's too rainy. It's too cold. And then finally we went walking, and I pretended to find the fortune cookie under a tree. And I was like, oh my God, there's a fortune cookie.
What a coincidence.
And she opened it up and she read it, and she promptly said no and walked off. Nice. And then
that was it.
That was that. Yeah, that was
it. How did you do it? Let's hear.
Oh, no, it's just the only thing that was, we were on Martha's Vineyard, and it was the 5th of July that Kobe proposed. But on the 4th of July, I assumed it was happening. And then when I realized that it didn't happen, we had a lot of friends on the vineyard with us. We played quarters. I mean, we really got hammered. And so the next day, the 5th of July, I didn't want to do anything. And everybody was having Mount Gay and tonics up on the deck. And I wanted to go do that. And Kobe was like, well, Ben forgot his stepfather forgot the cooler on the boat. Can you come with me to pick the cooler up? And I was like, but it's missing. No, you go get it. And I just did my hair and I don't feel well and I don't want to. Cut to, we got to the dock and there was a cooler with champagne and the ring. And so he proposed on the dock in the rain.
That's adorable.
But I had the same resistance as Jen. I was like, I don't want to, I don't feel good.
I did the same. I did the same thing, and my husband gave me a Red Bull and told me we were going. So I kind of knew at that point. I was like, "What the? It's not like you at all." Okay.
So honeymoon location. Where do you think they went on their honeymoon?
I mean, I think like Nantucket. I'm keeping it very in the north sort of territories. Really kind of uptight, fall, freezing, frigid.
I think it's funny because I chose the European version of that. I think we went to like Lucerne, Switzerland.
Totally. Like somewhere that's just like not sexy. Like, like
white and cold.
Totally.
And right.
You had business there. You had some exports.
Yeah.
2 birds, 1 stone,
It was, there's some banking that had to be done in Zurich. So we shot over to Zurich and we did we had a nice, really bland dinner. And it was
so funny. Jawohl.
Moving your money before Sons of Jacob moves in. Jeez. Smart.
Yeah, sure enough.
So I want to know, what was your binge TV show before Gilead?
I mean, I really would love for Naomi if it was like Gossip Girl. Do you know what I mean? Like if it was,
it fits.
Like, or like Heart of Dixie, like some Gilmore Girls, maybe.
Ooh.
Just like a girly, pulpy kind of thing.
I see that.
Kunken?
I think it doesn't really time out timing wise, but I
know.
I think like there's that show Pawn Stars, where they.
I love that show.
I think that was like either that or like Antiques Roadshow or something that was about like how much things were worth, or Survivor.
That's so fitting with our house too.
Yeah.
Like the Putnam house is so gaudy and insane and gilded and cold and
very comfortable looking.
Really cozy.
Yeah, super. That house has a sweet pool though, I will say.
That house, that was my first day of work, was at that house on season 1. And I had to go and like do the pretend birth, basically.
Yeah, that's
I had
awesome.
no idea what I was getting in for. And they were like, this is your character's house. And I was like, what is happening? Like, what is this show? I could not keep up. I just couldn't figure it out. And I didn't have Kunken yet. I was just all on my own at this point. So
that scene was your first to shoot?
My first day. Yeah. So I got the job. I was so excited. And then they had to fly me out a week early. And I was like, why a week early? And they said, you have a fitting. And I was like, a fitting? Clothes are easy. You just zip me in. Fine, I'll go a week early. And I get there and I meet Anne Crabtree. And then she's like draping fabric on me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you're making all the... Oh, okay. I think I sort of get this. Because remember, we haven't seen any at this point. It's episode 2, the pilot. They didn't show it to me. And then, my first day of work, I went in and I met, remember Corolla?
Oh, yeah.
I went and I met Corolla and she put like 50 rows of extensions on me and I was in a nightgown. And again, I was like, what is going on? And then we wheeled up and that was my house and that was that.
I've never had that. I will say, to jump on that point, I think when we auditioned and maybe even when we booked this job, which wasn't that far apart, not to get political, but like, I think we all thought that the glass ceiling was going to break and that Hillary Clinton was going to be president.
I will say, while we were filming those birth scenes, I was like this on my phone, streaming the debates. So that's what was happening at the same time that sweet Maddie was in the other room, like pretending to have the baby. I was streaming the debates.
To the sound of harp music?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's what everyone wants when they're in labor.
But just to finish that, by the time we got up to Gilead, or I got up to Toronto, it was like, I didn't know if the world had gone that way, this show is like a cautionary tale. but the way the world went, it becomes a giant protest piece in
Right.
a
Yeah.
way. And I remember walking, not knowing like what this was going to be or how this was going to be handled, and walking into the costume shop, and never I've had this before, and probably never will I have it again. But being like, don't know if this is what this is going to, how this is going to be any good, or what this is going to. Opening the door and instantaneously seeing the clothes and going, this is going to change the world. The show is like going to win it's going to. You just knew there was such a strong point of view on how this was going to be told, both visually and just how restrictive the clothes were for the women. It was just it was mind blowing.
And didn't you find too, there was nothing that hadn't been, there were no accidents. There were no production design accidents. There were no wardrobe accidents. There were no, it was all so intentional from the start. And I think the reason the show is still good is because that is still the case. Everybody's really, everyone brings their A game, and I've never had an experience like this ever in my career.
There's a lot of pressure with the political situation, like you said.
Well, I think Bruce says it best, which is that, every season he hopes the show is less relevant. And it seems like every season it's more. I was landing when Roe was overturned. I had just flown back to Canada for work. And literally by the time I got to my hotel room, my son had more rights than my daughter. Like, it was that sort of quick. It was insane. I think that was episode 9 or 10.
I can't.
I don't know what I'm going to do without going up to Toronto, because every time I go up to Toronto, some major.
Always.
I've been up there. I sat in quarantine for 2 weeks during the debates, during the election. And I managed to, I was by myself for 2 weeks back. This was when we had to quarantine for 2 weeks solid. And I got there the day before the election and just watched the election play out by myself in this, in this house in Leslieville. But I've had everything. I've been in.
We marched for Ukraine.
The travel ban, march for the Ukraine, the election.
Yeah.
I did the women's march there.
Wow.
And and remember Kunken and Stephen 1, episode 9, that scene on the bridge. Where Maddie has the baby.
That was the inauguration, wasn't it?
That was one. Remember, we had to shoot half of it one day and half of it the next day. One side was one way, and then they have to turn all the cameras around and face them the other direction, and we do all the same actions from the other side.
Oh, wow.
And one day, it makes me choked up. One day was the last day of Obama's presidency, and the next day was the first day of Trump's.
Holy shit!
Wow,
that's insane.
Yeah, it was real holy shit.
Wow.
And all those scenes in the beginning, those protest scenes, none of those had happened in America for the elections this time. Those were.
They were coming.
Yeah.
Prescient. It was all prescient in a way. And, but
I feel like the writers have made some deal with the devil, and they get cheat sheet. They get the cliff notes on the future.
Right. They're like on episode 10, like you guys are. You're a little bit ahead.
Yeah. Just a little.
That's depressing, but yeah, important.
So, jobs.
Pre-Gilead job.
Oh, Naomi didn't work, honey.
Yeah,
no. There was no working. No. She grabbed his ankle, didn't let him break up with her, and then got the ring by spring. No.
Did you graduate college? Did she graduate college at least?
Sure.
What was her major?
What was your major? Husbandry, animal husbandry.
Yeah, I keep thinking of that movie Mona Lisa Smile. Do you know what I mean? Like some sort of something, homemaking. I don't know.
Yes. All right. I love it. Okay. Is there anything else on this list that you want to answer?
I have a strong sense of my favorite store that we shop at.
Yeah, favorite stores. Let's do it.
And this one is just bizarre. So just hang on for 1 second while I explain what I'm about to. Do you know in big major cities like Paris and New York, and I don't know that, that we're on a very major street. There's inexplicably a store that sells artifacts. It'll be like an Abercrombie and Fitch, and then they'll be they'll sell 2 Etruscan urns and 1 giant gold eagle, and you're nobody. I've never seen a human being in there, but clearly
how do they pay their rent? Yeah,
how do they pay their rent? But it's on Fifth Avenue, or I think there's one of those places, and that they have that's just plundered. Art and artifacts that we just frequent, and they
probably let you into the back room for the real good stuff.
Yeah, totally. It's
the black market,
and I mean it's either that or loaves and fishes, and I don't think there's.
Oh my God, we would never have been to Loaves and Fishes, right?
Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No. The fancy people don't go to loaves and fishes, do they?
Costco. What would be the Costco of Gilead?
Big loaves and big fishes.
Bulk loaves and fishes.
Bigger loaves and biggest fishes.
Well, it was so interesting seeing the Putnams in the restaurant because we've never seen that before.
Yeah.
We've never seen a Gilead restaurant.
We saw a restaurant in DC, but not.
Oh,
But
that's true.
wasn't it sort of like, am I mixing the fact and fiction? Was it like a country club or was it an actual restaurant?
It
That's
seemed
what
like
it
a
seemed
country
like.
club,
You're right. A country
Because it
club
was
is
in
more-
actuality like was it a fishing club?
It's called the Trout Club. I don't know what that means. Yeah, Trout Club.
It was a trout club. It's where a bunch of people go and hunt and
You don't
fish.
remember where your husband died, ma'am?
That's right. Jesus. I filmed a scene with Joe that we filmed, and it was one of my favorite things we ever did, and it didn't make it. I think just time-wise, that episode ran long, but it was in Jezebel's, and it was this huge. I mean, it was one of the biggest things. It was probably the biggest thing other than the funeral that I had ever shot in terms of the amount of people. And it was Waterford and Putnam were at Jezebel's having drinks and dinner and did this giant walk and talk through. It was like a reimagining of Jezebel's so that it was like what we know Jezebel's to be was like really sort of velvety and dark and kind of, and this was much more like Eyes Wide Shut. It was more sort of like, you know, like incredibly opulent and rich and like a smoking club. And I remember we were having like a dinner and we had waiters and it was like a full-on place. And we were talking about our wives. We were just talking about mundane things.
What'd you say? Did you say nice things about me?
Yeah.
She's probably going to marry somebody else someday.
The second I die.
Right.
Yeah. Give her 3 weeks, guys.
One episode.
Someday, Fred, you and I will have all the time in the world. Fred.
Oh my God.
I don't think never actually saw you at Jezebel's. I don't think so.
No.
Yeah.
But we knew you went.
I can tell you,
We probably.
Putnam definitely is a frequenter of Jezebel's, though.
Were you and Fred actually friends at any point in your history? Warren?
Yeah, totally. I don't think Warren is an ideologue. I think Warren is much more is like a plutocrat. Like I think he was really excited about wealth consolidation and being like, I mean, I think he believes in these ideas as in so much as he is a changeable figure and he goes, which the best way to get power, where that goes. But I think that I always felt that Fred was more devout than Warren was. And I think they worked well together, but I do think he really liked Fred until it was no longer.
Sometime before the thoughts and prayers line.
Sometime before the thoughts and prayers. But Fred went rogue.
Yeah. Before the we'll take your baby.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
That was an excellent scene.
Yeah. Fred also, he stood up for my hand. Even when Naomi didn't stand up for my hand.
Oh, yeah. That was cool, Naomi. I liked that.
I know, originally in that script, Naomi went and pled to Fred to please not punish him.
Oh.
Wow.
You went the other direction on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my flight got canceled. They were like, we don't need you. And
I like it.
Do you still have Stumpy?
Did you steal him?
I didn't steal Stumpy, just in case Stumpy, the show does. I mean, look, we've certainly seen people who have been dead before again. So I think Stumpy had to remain.
Oh, that would be lovely. We hope that happens.
When they show our wedding.
Could you imagine?
When you're like having second thoughts. Yeah.
At the Boston Country Club.
I'm holding out hope for some sort of flashback where you're there. And this season, when we did the flashback, the birth scene, I guess in episode 7, and June was dressed as a handmaid again, was definitely really made me very uncomfortable. I was like, we're back.
Yeah. I mean, it was really nice to see Alma and Brianna, but agreed.
It was so nice to see them. And it was so cute to see the girls together. We just took pictures of each other all day long.
And I like those photos too. Thank you for posting things like that.
Of course. What are you drinking, Kunken? You have coffee? Do you have something fancy?
This is a Billionsy type coffee. This is an oat milk flat white.
They call that the Steve, just so you know, at our hotel in Canada. If you'd like an oat milk flat white, just say, can I have the Steve?
You have a drink named after yourself?
I'm also drinking oat milk coffee.
There you go.
Amazing.
Oat milk is delicious.
Yeah, it's great.
Delicious.
Drip coffee with Nancy.
Okay. Our friends are waiting in the upside down to ask you guys some questions.
Hello.
Megan.
Hey, Megan.
Here's Megan.
Hi, Megan.
Hello. Good morning, Ever and Stephen. Thanks for joining us today. This is for Stephen.
Okay.
I am curious about the commander hierarchy and, is there a grand poobah, so to speak? Where were you before your demise? Were you kind of like the supreme leader of your district, and now Lawrence has moved his way up?
Super great question. I think sometimes it feels a little bit like Star Wars, where it's like there's the grand leader, and then like, oh, there's Snoke, and then there's another guy, and sometimes we don't know until they tell us who's above us that there isn't above us. I think Putnam was pretty high, and not. I'm nerding out here. I apologize, but like not like Lord of the Rings. The closer you got to the ring, the more you became like Gollum. So I do think that with Fred being gone, I think Warren was ascending into Fred's position. If not, I think it happened. Maybe he wasn't given the titles yet, but he was there. I think Lawrence was below Putnam. At least that was my understanding until, the bivouac. Is that when you or when you go around somebody and I don't think Warren saw that. I think Lawrence to Warren was a threat, but not one that was going to manifest. I don't think he saw that coming. I think it's hard to tell where power is centralized in this world sometimes. And I think part of that is just because it would be a huge question that I don't know that they'd have time to answer. And also because I think it's inherent in this world that everybody is on unsure footing. And their power is consolidated by that. And so I think that you don't know where you stand until you've overstepped, and then you're dead. And then you realize that there's somebody above you.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, it does. It's fascinating. I'm always have been so curious, like if there's, like you said, like a supreme leader, and I would assume that maybe he's from like DC or something. And
there very well might be. And there was, I remember when Joe Fiennes at one point was filming, I forget what scene he was filming, but he sent me a picture of like this board of who the major players were in Gilead. I think it was for Canada, but we were on the board, and it was interesting to think like, oh, are they internationally known, these guys, or are they like the commanders of like big swaths of what Gilead territory is? I don't think there's anybody who has a definitive answer. I think it's what serves.
Well, I think Bruce probably has a definitive.
Yeah, except for Bruce.
Bruce and Lizzie.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Julia is here from Germany.
Yes. Hello, Eva. Hello, Stephen.
Hi.
Hello.
Before my real question starts, I just heard Eva talking in German a little. So do you know German?
Oh, ein bisschen.
Oh, super.
Nice. Okay.
How's that?
I went to a Rudolf Steiner school. I went to a Steiner school. So I took German from 1st through 12th grade. I should speak it much better than I do.
Funny thing, like we have one in our neighborhood.
Oh, you do?
We do. Fascinating. Anyways, back to my question, and it's actually a question for you both. So I was kind of interested in what your characters, so Warren and Naomi, think about Warren's crimes this season compared to season 1, because as you just mentioned, Eva, that Naomi was actually presented as wanting the maximum punishment for Warren in season 1, and also losing a hand for Warren must have been traumatic in some sense, I guess. So what do you think? How did they react to what happened in episode 6?
I mean, for me, I think Naomi is so much about, I think she's a gossip. And I think that she's so much about what people think and what people are saying about her. And so I think that Warren's punishments are going to reflect directly on her. Do you know what I mean? And so I think that is probably why it was a smarter move for him to have the harshest punishment, as opposed to what the original draft was, which was begging for mercy. So I think it really just comes, I think so much about it is keeping up with appearances, and this sort of it's all, everyone's sort of playing their Gilead part. And I think that Naomi's is, she doesn't want people to talk about her. Like, it's like high school, she's trying to just keep, she wants people to talk about her, but she doesn't want people to talk about her. She wants people to know about her, but not talk about her.
So do you think she was surprised that Warren was, like, that he did it again, kind of, that he violated like the handmaid again out of the ceremony? No,
not at all. Do you, Kunken? Do you think I don't think, I mean, ever as a viewer wasn't surprised. So I hope Naomi's. And they talk about it. All the commanders talk about the fact that like Warren's sort of a dirt dick, for lack of a better word. You know what I mean? I think it's like
A dirt dick.
It's well covered territory.
Yeah.
I think everything is a crime in Gilead, but nothing is also a crime until they call it a crime. And so
until it needs to be a crime, right?
Right.
And so
for
political expediency. Yeah. So I think Warren doesn't view, the handmaids as, he views them kind of as property and not, and it's funny because Eva and I talked about this when we had our meeting about like the first version of that scene. It was sort of like Putnam on the bridge, which was, I felt much more of like, please come down. And there was slightly more guilt to it. I think Putnam has gotten to the point now where I was like, I don't think there's any sense of pleading for Putnam to Lawrence.
Just outraged that he's being,
Well, it was just like, I think we're going to get moved to a different location and we're going to try this out and I'm going to be vindicated and Lawrence is going to be shellacked for trying to get around me.
And I love that you played it that way. I love that that's how you, because I think that some people could have used the same words and begged and pleaded. And I loved your sort of, this is preposterous. Like, what are you doing? Like, I just loved it. So that's just mine.
Yeah, we heard the same from Eva, I think, because, I mean, Stephen, you and Eva were talking about what's the natural reaction from Warren to like the allegations he's facing. And
she was amazing at that because, I think we were both in complete lockstep about what that should be, whether it was her saying that, do you think, or whether she was leading me to that point? But I remember reading the script and being like, wouldn't it be much more Warren to just have no concept? And also it's as shocking to Warren that happens as I hope it is to the audience, which is like, what? I'm in the middle of a sentence, boom.
And part of it that didn't make it is there was an entire Naomi reaction to it. And I sort of love that you don't even see it. You know what I mean? Like it was important to film on the day and I'm sad to not have seen it myself, but I do think it
played better.
Because it's like, it's a day in the life of Gilead. It happens. It's not about anybody's feelings or reactions to it.
But your reaction was still amazing. What we did see that you
this
can use
one,
that GIF for,
the GIF that keeps on gifting
all the time. Exactly.
I will say on that day, and then I'm going to embarrass myself, but they were like, we have one shot at this blood that pools out of Warren's head in this like overhead shot where it's like a pull out.
Yeah, it's a great shot.
And it's a great shot. And we're like, it's like one shot. We got one shot at this. It's cold. We're gonna have to clean up Stephen afterwards. So we really got one shot. So we did it. And they put this like puck behind my head that was attached to like a huge bike hose that had like blood ready to pour out it. I fall and everybody's quiet and they push this hose and it starts, I can feel it on the back of my head, the blood coming out, and I'm dead. So I clearly shouldn't be moving at all. But the hose starts farting, like it makes a noise. It's like, and unfortunately, I heard both Brad and Max off camera sort of like snicker. And I'm not the easiest. I'm not like the most stone faced. So I'm dead and I just can't not sort of smirk. And now you have a smirking dead person. And I was like, and they're like, okay, cut, because the blood didn't come out well anyway. And I was like, I cannot believe we just blew that one shot. And then we ended up getting to shoot it again. We cleaned up and we shot again and it came out great.
And in the end, we got this great behind the scenes picture of Max standing above your bleeding.
So great.
Yeah, really very clearly quite broken and upset that he had shot me as he stands with a big smile.
And then we shot our scene at the table last. That scene where we're having breakfast and Naomi is, I don't know why, so annoyed with him just because he's alive. And it was fully like the day started green and spring and beautiful. And by that point, everything was covered in like 6 inches of
it was crazy.
Wet snow. And it was so cold. It was so cold. Cold as our honeymoon, honey.
Sweet, icy honeymoon.
Our sweet, icy honeymoon.
Swiss is great, by the way. I just drove through there like one month ago, so it's not as icy and cold every time.
I'm gonna. Fred and I are gonna book that. We'll go there for our heavenly honeymoon together.
All right, Tina.
Hi, Ever. Hi, Stephen. Thank you for being here.
Hello.
So my question is, these characters are so different from how you guys are. Was there any music you listened to, or did you do anything special before you started filming to kind of get into the heads of Naomi and Putnam?
For me, it's like almost I have done that as an actor and at work. I've done that, but on this show, no. There was a scene where Yvonne and I, where we're at, they call it like the baby pound is what I think we were calling it at work.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it was so, as a human, as a mother, Yvonne and I were not okay. Like a lot of tears. It was so unbelievably upsetting that all we did was like rap rhymes and do stupid dances to keep laughing.
Yeah.
But that's another way. Like some people use music to like loosen up or get somewhere. Like that just sort of kept us in our body and breathing and loose, because otherwise I can guarantee you we never would have been able to hold it together and be that stoic. It was really, it was an upsetting day.
Yeah.
Very sad.
I'll say, just to add, huge love and props to the writers on the show, because I think that the musicality, especially of the language of Gilead, which is kind of heightened, it has a kind of theatricality to it, puts you in that world very quickly. Sometimes if you're really naturalistic as an actor, you need to kind of shift your energy before you start working. But, as soon as you say blessed day, it's like you're just in a different headspace. And they do that even in naturalized scenes. They have these incredibly great hooks in terms of just the way they structure sentence, which may even, there's just a word will be in front of another word. And when you learn them, you learn them as they are. You try not to finesse the language to make it feel more natural, because you'll end up finding your boat very far off course. So there are other shows in which you want to change your energy and you listen to music and you read stuff. But in this show, it's really, you step into those restrictive clothes and you say those words, and a lot of it takes care of itself.
It's I'll just piggyback that the clothes are, for me, the clothes and the hair are incredibly helpful. I always rehearse in my heels. Like there are just, there's a few little shortcut, though that's really very helpful. I always feel so strange rehearsing with my hair down in my cozies.
I'll say it's terrifying, because we don't live in this kind of a place, but every time I film, pretty much, there are at least 15 people with submachine guns standing around, and that has a feel to it that is, even though they're fake and they're lovely people from Toronto who are figuring out what they're gonna have for lunch, they're standing there with an AR-15 or whatever it is, and it's different. It has this strange, solemnity to the entire experience it's icky.
It's also very, don't you find, Steve, that like this set, it's very immersive, these scenes, a lot of them will do big wide shots, or there's a crane, or there's something where they need to see a giant piece of real estate. And that means that they have to fill it with extras or banners or dudes with machine guns or a horse or children or whatever it is. And that is also just, that would trump any music I could listen to just sort of be present in the space. And like Steve said, also the words, so much of the work is done for us, as long as you can just be present.
Interesting.
Cool. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right, Scarlett.
Hi, Stephen. Hi, Ever. Thanks for taking the time talking to us. My question, Stephen talked a little bit about it already, but I was wondering, was for both of you, if you could talk about any particular scenes or script changes that you filmed.
There was a scene that ended up being cut for time. It was a flashback in episode 7. There's a flashback sort of to this Gilead birth. And then there was also a flashback to the Putnams and their first handmaid, and Serena coming to visit, and Naomi and Serena trying to find the language of how to communicate what a handmaid is and how to treat her. And it was as a fan of the show, it was something that I really wanted to see. But there was not the time, and also getting into the Putnam house is no small feat. So I think that was part of it, that we couldn't sneak in there for a day. But for me, I love those sort of the flashbacks that fill pieces that you've only been able to imagine.
Yeah.
But it was never shot. So I don't know if that's an interesting answer to your question, but
it is.
They have to pull. I think when they write these scenes, by the time we see them, there's so many logistics factors that would go into it that we don't see things that haven't been thoroughly pretty far along and pretty vetted.
Yeah. Thank you.
Marigold.
Hello.
Marigold, what a great name.
So my question is for Stephen. So in the bridge scene with Janine in season 1, Janine yelled to Warren about how she would do all of the freaky shit that Naomi wouldn't do.
Where are you going with this, Marigold?
What exactly is the freaky shit?
To Reddit. Let's go to Reddit.
No, I'm
take
joking.
this off to the.
We were like discussing on our chat. I'm like, should I ask it as a joke? And they're like, yeah, do it. They have a good sense of humor.
Do it. Come on.
Now I really want to know. I really want to know.
No, but my real question is, I know for Joseph Fiennes in season 2, there is a scene where Fred was supposed to rape Serena, and he pushed back on the writers on the scene and eventually got cut. So I'm wondering if there was ever a scene for either of you that maybe you pushed back on the writers or maybe felt like out of character for you.
Great question.
I mean, I think the show really trusts us, I feel like, as an actor. They trust us in the silence. And I think a lot of shows, are so much in the editing and so much of it is so quick. And this show really lets the camera see the characters think. And so I think that in that's when we can sometimes resist what's in the words or in the scene. Like that can be our protest moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't had to, I push back on things like my hotel room and like that's really
important stuff.
I was very happy, even though I did, as I said earlier today, I did know definitively that the scene that you had just seen with the chocolate eating was going to follow on directly to the crime itself. Had that been a really graphic scene that was written, I trust the writers, as Ever said so much. And I think this show does an expert job at showing the brutality of that world so that and you don't just sort of, imagine what it is, but without it sort of falling into torture porn in a way. And I think we've also created a world vivid enough at this point in the story that we can rely on the fact that the audience has learned what those events are and hear a scream behind a door and know that that's what happens. We don't, and if we show it, then what are we saying? And I think they're the writers are incredibly sensitive to it. And I think Joe early on was part of the experience of teaching an audience what those things were. And that must have been incredibly hard because he's one of the nicest human beings on the planet with 2 lovely, lovely kids and a fabulous wife. And it's hard to be these people, and to own these with, in the legitimate way that we have to own them and not wink at the camera and say like, but I'm really not like this. Your job is to be a horrible human being. You have to be a horrible human being, or else you're not doing your job and telling the story about the people who are fighting against that. You're actually doing the exact opposite, and you're subverting what the entire experience of this thing should be about. So, you have to do it legitimately, and that takes a certain kind of sadistic human being to want to do that. That's why we fight about hotels and
Yeah.
Well, airline times. Hotel. Don't forget airline times.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
All right. Melissa from Argentina.
Hi, Ever. Hi, Stephen. Thank
Hello.
you for doing this. My question is for Stephen, and it's a curiosity from season 2. Was there a backstory to that scene after the bombing between Nick and Putnam? Because it gave me the impression that he was trying to read Nick and his reactions to Bryce's death. He was asking Nick if they were close. Were
they in the hospital?
And yes, with Fred in bed.
Got it. Yes. I mean, I think that I will say that scene at the was the Red Center, right? Where the explosion was?
Yes.
Okay.
The explosion,
so that scene, again, most of us didn't know who was going to survive that blast at the time. And I remember us being like, okay, so wait, Price is there. So, how far am I from the explosion? Like how legitimately could we? And I remember then I at one point I was like right up in front. I was like, ooh, that's pretty close. And then somebody else came in and was like, actually move him over 6 seats. I was like, ooh. But so I think so while I didn't in that scene with Nick, yes, there's definitely a sense, and I think you probably read the same sense of the actor, is all of these people needed to figure out where they were in the reshuffle of power. And I think that's something that comes up time and time again in this world. And it's as much about us not knowing, which I think is actually sort of helpful. I mean, I think all of us know a general arc of where we're going, but until these scripts drop, for us, we don't know exactly how we're going to get from point A to B. And then sometimes things are just complete surprises and thrilling. And so we're playing them out of time, and we are trying to fact find as we go. And that's a very immediate thing to play. So I'm sure I was playing it. I got to go back now and be like, oh no, I was actually playing.
I know.
I know in the hospital, Fred looked pretty bad.
Yeah.
Joe was pretty brutalized.
Could have gone either way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time.
Okay, go ahead, Claudia. Hi, Eva. Hi, Steven. Thank you for taking so much time for us today.
It's a joy.
I have a more like BTS question. So since a lot of us are moms, I wanted to know if how it was having to film with all those different babies and now the 2 toddlers. And are there cute or funny stories you can share?
I can speak to this very directly because are you with Angela ever this year, Steve?
No.
Okay. It's twins who play Angela, and I think they're about 3 years old. So they are true COVID kids. Their exposure to strangers and the world has been extremely limited, and they're very bonded with one another and their mom and their grandmother. So they don't want to be away from their parents or their sister. The first experience was in the Putnam house when Angela runs in and she runs to Maddie and then runs away. So Maddie did a ton of work off BTS, as you say, to hang out with them and make them feel comfortable. And even on the day, all of our reactions, everything we're looking at a piece of tape. She wasn't available to do that. She ran in and ran out one time. We got it. And that was that. And then thank goodness Lizzie was directing and had been in that space before with Nick, our DP. And so they sort of figured that out. And then my other really lengthy experience was at the, when Naomi goes to visit Janine in the hospital, and I'm holding Angela, and this is where it helps that I'm a giant fan of the show. And for me, the way that scene works is if Angela is attached to me, afraid of Janine, and then warm with Janine. And so I never let that little girl down. I think I held her for 3 hours. I can't remember which one I was holding, but we played peekaboo games in the fake hospital. We hid things on my finger. We took it on and off it was hours. I don't think I've ever worked as hard as an actor, because I also said I don't take my heels off for rehearsals. So there was that. And then when it was finally, and we're lying to her, we're telling her sister's in the bathroom, that her mom's going to be there in a second, sort of because kids aren't aware of time. And so that would buy us 20 minutes or a half an hour. And this isn't child torture. She was totally happy. But literally we wrapped that scene, and Dowd looked at me and goes, "You're a saint." And then Maddie looked at me and said, "I'm never having children." So it was a lot of work. And I have so much compassion because, we're all a little weird after COVID, and these little girls haven't had the exposure. Sets are weird and scary, and there's strangers everywhere and giant pieces of equipment. And so I had to really just be a mom, a full-blown mom for several hours to make her comfortable.
Hats off to that.
That scene is one of my favorite from, I think, the whole season. The scene where she touches
Yeah.
Janine's little,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
I
it was
know.
so
And I
adorable.
loved the scene too. And I loved that, you know, my mission was that Naomi sort of surprised by her own emotional reaction. And like selfishly, none of it was going to work if the kid is screaming or she wasn't dealing with Janine. Janine was so we were playing a peekaboo game off camera. So we had hid that in Maddie's hand. So that way he was trying to get the little kitten or what, I don't even know what it was.
So
from
smart.
her hand. So not to spoil the beauty of it, but it was, there were some tricks.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That is awesome.
You can't hold a baby with one arm. So that's one of my lucky superpowers that I get to do. I'm like, here you go, honey.
That's the thing. I'm so sad we never got just like one montage of the Putnams getting ready and me having to like tie your shoes for you.
Yeah. I love the logistics stuff like that. I think about it all the time. I love it.
I know we do.
All right, Helen, also Germany.
Hi, you guys. Thank you so much for meeting us. I have a quick question for Ever. Why do you think Naomi agreed to such a young handmaid with Esther?
Well, I think that since she's getting a handmaid, she knows she gets to have a second child. And I think that her youth is probably, you know, Naomi's not an idiot. I think she knows that the younger the girl, probably the more likely they are to have a successful pregnancy, and that she'd never been posted before. I think that that's sort of a shiny thing. And I think Lydia says something to her about, because, you know, Naomi's pissed she was a wife before, you know, she thinks that's odd, but then Lydia, I think, spins that in a way that Naomi likes, that she'll understand my stature and her place in the home, kind of. But I think it's really just about having a second child. Oh, there was a bit more of that we shot. There was something where that didn't make it, where Naomi kind of walks the line. So there was something before I was introduced to Esther that didn't make it in the show.
Oh, she was gonna choose
like I like the brown-haired one, and the blonde one's sort of cute, I guess. And, you know, just sort of, that was what I was thinking in my head, but it was kind of walking. It was a long time ago, but there's some sort of a walking the line of them.
So the age was not an issue for Esther. I mean, that she was young, I understand, but that she was that young, and knowing how Warren is.
I will just say, to add to that, I think, ironically, the most upsetting day that I can recall being on set, or what I was observing was the most unsettling, was that giant wedding scene where all of the commanders are or I don't even know if they're commanders, but I remember seeing that scene, and I was sitting next to Joe, and we were just watching this procession, and they did an incredible job at casting it, because it was a bunch of sort of like weathered men, Nick being one of them, and each of those girls were like,
they were like 15 years old. They were little girls.
14 years old. And it was, when they unveiled them, it was so nauseating and like so upsetting. And to be surrounded by this community that was like, oh, this is a great event. I think that it sort of just breeds into the culture there, which is like they're not valued like somebody else on the social strata, you know. So it's how well they breed.
I remember Naomi had a reaction to that as well. She looked kind of disgusted.
She had the decency to look.
When at the wedding?
The wedding,
of the children to the guardians.
I just remember my own personal Ever's reaction. Like sometimes my reaction to stress, like if I'm on a turbulent flight, I'll probably fall asleep. Like my reaction to extreme stress can be to sleep. And I remember that day specifically being like, I have very good energy, and I had none. I was like a lethargic, sleepy mess. Like my body was like, shut down, make it stop.
Maybe your actual reaction made it into the scene there.
Am I nodding off?
All right, Rachel.
Hi, Ever and Stephen. It's so exciting. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. So my question is for Ever. So Lucas Neff, who plays Mr. Wheeler, also starred in Raising Hope with your cousin, Martha Plimpton. And you mentioned on Twitter once that you texted Lucas after his premiere on The Handmaid's Tale. Did you already know Lucas well because of that connection? And if so, do you have any fun stories about him?
You know, Lucas and I did a movie together, maybe 7 or 8 years. I don't think it ever came out. So I usually don't. And so I knew him from, that must be how I had his phone number. I'm not even sure. No, I don't have any fun stories, but I do, you know, I've been in this business long enough, and have enough friends who do like, I really believe that if somebody's work or something that somebody does speaks to you or you feel proud of them, you should tell them. And so that was why I reached out to him, because also this show, it's, as we were saying early, it's isolating. You know, he was probably only with Genevieve, you know, he didn't really mix into Gilead and the whole group. He was really kind of on his own.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of isolation on the show because of COVID protocols and quarantine time. So anyway, it was literally like, if you see something, say something, sort of in a good way. I thought he was so magnificent in that scene. And I was really couldn't take my eyes off him. And as a human and as an actor, I wanted him to know that.
Awesome.
That's why I texted him.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
I have to ask a very random thing to Stephen. What is your dog dressing up as for Halloween this year?
Oh, that's such a good question.
I really should make Jelly dress up as something good. We have, where I am, I live in Brooklyn, New York, and there's I live in an area called Red Hook, which is right by the water. And so during Hurricane Sandy, we got absolutely destroyed. And so right around Halloween, every year, our community does this huge parade procession to sort of ward off the evil spirits of future hurricanes. And it's the greatest day ever, but that sort of has taken the place of like all my Halloween energies, because there's like floats and buskers and people come from on, they play like weird garbage instruments, like, you know, because part of it was like anything that washed up on the shore can be used as an instrument. So people have like muffler trumpets and things like that. But I should make her go as a handmaid, really, probably.
Oh, there was this dog. I walked by this dog in Canada. I was walking around with Jason, and the dog literally looked just like a handmaid. I'm going to see if I can find it while we're all still on the phone.
Do you have a dog, Ever?
She has Fozzie right behind her.
Named Fozzie. He's there on that little.
Oh, look. Okay.
I also love the name of both your pets.
Yeah, Jelly and Fozzie.
Have your dogs met?
Fozzie and Angelica have not met. Jelly have not met.
Oh, Angelica.
And they're separately coasted animals.
We're separately coasted animals. This would be so much sadder if Ever and I weren't friends.
Yeah, it would be.
But we talk probably more now than we did.
I know.
Did together.
Yeah, we talk a lot. And
did you know each other before?
We have mutual. My cousin Martha Plimpton.
I know Martha.
Did I tell her that we were working together, or did you tell me that you? I can't remember. It was at that big scene called Transpo.
Oh right, yeah. I knew I was mad forever when it was right around. It was that scene where all the little kids come in and the delegates from Mexico are there in season one. Yeah. And it was right around pre-Christmas, and I was in like prime shopping time for my daughter, who was 5 at the time or 6. Yeah. And she really wanted this Lego train set that you couldn't get anywhere. And I was sitting next to Ever, and Ever basically was like, this is how we get her the Lego train set. This is exactly how we're going to do it. And basically like was on her phone, found the Lego train set, found all the ways that we got it. And I was a hero for Christmas. And
well, because you found
That's
it,
amazing.
you found it at a location, but you were like, I can't get there in time. How am I going to get to, wherever Canada? And my answer was called Transpo, who are the lovely drivers who take us to and from set. And that's been our catchphrase ever since.
That's amazing. Yeah. She's like, please, I got this.
I got you.
And Warren was in logistics, and clearly Naomi was the
come on. Your backstory just fell apart.
It did. Totally fell apart.
What do you guys do when you're not in Toronto together? Like, do you ever like cheat on each other and go to that restaurant on your own, or your favorite restaurant?
You mean like when we're in Toronto and we're not working?
Together.
Yeah, when you're not working together. I see you always go to that one restaurant. I can't remember what it's called now. Pie.
Yeah, we go to Pie.
We have like 7 or 8 restaurants that we frequent, and like it is sort of weird if like on an episode when I'm there and Ever is not, or vice versa, we pretty much send a picture of ourselves like outside this store we always go to, eating the ice cream cone.
I went to Pie after Putnam had died with a bunch of the cast, and he wasn't there, and it just wasn't the same, honey.
Same.
Well, we hope to see you guys on another show again one day. Maybe like Souls Intact characters, like
I think it should be like a Better Call Saul, like offshoot prequel of us.
Yes.
Just
yes,
at the country
club.
working together.
Rom-com. You just wrote it.
A rom-com.
Totally. Just no children. No children.
That's right.
Before you go, Stephen, I need to ask you about your garden because I was really fascinated by your gardening skills. It looks very good.
Oh, the follow-ups are so much bleaker. I will say the follow-ups are like, I built this garden in this house that I bought in the country and I was so excited. And I started up there in the spring and things started to just go. I mean, it was incredible. I was so excited, like eggplants and tomatoes. I was like, I'm
a farmer.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know what people have complained about. This is the easiest thing in the world. And cut to like a month later where it was all like really, it was still going great. I was like, zucchinis were gorgeous and glistening. And then I came out one day and everything that I was about to pick had been destroyed and eaten by something. And so I spent the rest of the summer like tracking groundhogs and squirrels. But by the end of it, it felt like Gilead. I was standing out there with a machine gun waiting all day.
It's so sad. That happened
so sad.
here. The deer, I have sort of a big rose garden, and the deer like to eat the roses, but they really like to wait till they're just about to bloom.
Perfect.
Just because that's when the is. And it's like the day you're going to take your clippers out, and then you go outside and you're like, why are there a bunch of sticks in the yard attached to rose bushes? I'm trying to find this dog. Wait.
Oh, you can wait.
The only thing that I harvested, like at the end of all of this, was like, after being like, we're going to have radicchio and, we're going to have cucumbers and honey melons and all this stuff. It was like, what we got was 28 eggplants and 400 hot peppers. Like, what are you going to do?
Like things you just don't want to eat. Totally.
Yeah, even the groundhog was like,
use like one of those.
No, thank you. Don't need that.
I'll leave those for you.
Make a good pasta sauce with that, actually.
Yeah, you could do
There
that.
you go.
Yeah.
Now you
Very
tell
spicy.
Yeah. I'll send you. I've got 400 eggplants you can have if you want me to just send them.
Okay, sure.
They're yours.
Yeah, we'll take them.
Wait, I found it, you guys.
Oh my God, yes.
Oh, yeah.
And you just walked by that in Toronto?
Yeah, I just walked by that one day. Is that the cutest thing? You recognize you?
Yeah, did they recognize you?
No, the only time I don't know if we got recognized, Steve, but when I would go out with Yvonne and her family and children, we would definitely get some a few double takes.
So was Yvonne's family there the whole time?
They were, and then they became my
so.
family because they killed
Sounds
my
like it.
husband, and I wanted to be with my people. So I would just go steal her delicious babies, and we would just spend the days walking and eating.
Sounds amazing. I just remembered an interview you did ever. I don't even know when. I don't even know where. But you were talking about walking behind Max and Lizzie as they entered Canada, crossed a welcome to Canada sign.
Oh yeah,
something.
we were coming back to Canada from I think it was the Globes, whatever. We were all on the same flight. Yeah. And I am a fan of the show. And we got off the plane and Lizzie and Max were on my flight and they were in front of me and they were walking arm in arm. And then above them, it said, welcome to Canada. And the crazy person in me was like, they made it. They're there.
They did it.
June and Nick are free. And then I was like, you're so crazy. But I was so taken by it that I couldn't even take a picture. I was
gonna say you should have taken a picture.
I couldn't because I was so happy that they were free.
I know. I like to picture you tears
probably
falling down
probably
your cheeks.
Some.
That happened.
And then some years later, he shoots me in the head. Isn't that just really so sweet?
I won't ask you, Stephen, then if you're a Nick fan, because obviously, he's just shot you in the head. So probably
I don't think he's going to get his vote.
I am a gigantic Max fan.
Yeah.
He's a delightful human being.
Yeah.
And as a watcher of the show, I'm a gigantic Nick fan too. I mean, but you know what? The last word hasn't been written on Nick. Nick it's an interesting thing when people are like, you're the worst person ever. When somebody comes up to you on the street and be like, you're the most despicable. The majority of the people in Gilead have all, for better or worse. I mean, Lawrence is not a good guy. Nick is,
but we can't help but love him.
You can't help but love him. But if you were to take what he's actually done,
yes, of course,
you never make up for that. Yeah.
No.
So it's an interesting thing. That being said, I find his relationship with June absolutely fascinating and heartbreaking. And so yeah, I mean, as I'm a humongous Nick fan, I'll forgive him. I place it at Lawrence's feet. Bradley. It was all Bradley. I think it was Bradley. I don't even think it was Lawrence. I think it was actually Brad who just wanted to spend more time with
Very
Ever.
personal.
Yeah.
That was my joke that he was like, I want the blonde one. I'll take the blonde.
Yeah. Ever, you are I feel like you like Nick and June as well.
I love Nick and June. And I love, I said before that like you get to see these characters think. And I love when they give Nick that long close up and you're like, what is he thinking?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's he's so engaged. I love watching him think.
Yes, we also do.
They're two of the best actors. If you go to the monitor and watch, they're two of the most interesting actors to watch on a monitor because they both Lizzie is generationally talented human being. I mean, just in everything she does. Even as a director, you're like, well, that's your first directing thing. It's like you're the best director. Right. But and I've said this before, that there are days that you will look and be like, there's 9 pages of like internal monologue that June will be having, and you will see Lizzie in the monitor do it, and you could, without knowing, transcribe 80% of what was on the page just by looking at her.
Yeah.
Her face.
And that is
incredible.
It's just it is a crazy cipher, like, vessel kind of acting that is amazing. And Max is the same thing. Max is just insanely great at being, silently in his own thoughts. It's just crazy. It's beautiful to watch.
I mean, he expresses so much with so few words.
And also this show allows that. A lot of shows don't think that the audience can handle that, or they don't think that their actors can. And so it's such a treat to be on something where they trust the audience enough to follow along, and they trust all of us enough to carry whatever weight we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're incredible at it.
Thank you.
I have one more question I want to know. Do you think Serena is redeemable? I need to know what you guys think.
Oh, it's so hard because I just love Yvonne so much.
Yeah. I think that's the problem for everybody.
Yeah. And all of my Naomi scene, I think Naomi, all she wants is Serena's approval, like all the time, every scene. Like she just wants to sort of impress Serena. Do I think that she's redeemable? That's a long way of saying I don't know. There are some scenes where I root for her, but if if it's Serena against June, I'm team June.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. I'm gonna give a big nope. I think people show you.
Hell no.
People show you who they are, and you can work to balance your legacy in some way. But we can't make up for that. We saw some really bad stuff that she has.
I think people forget, because
they do. They must.
How great was that scene in season 4 when June just like comes in and berates her, and then Yvonne just with like quivering lip, I'm sorry, like the saddest, lamest apology that's not going to do anything. Yeah. Remember when you watched that, Steve? And he called me. He's like, "This is the greatest show ever. I can't believe we're on this show."
Yeah, I did. When how can you forgive Yvonne for driving June up to see her kid and then getting in the back of them? After you do that, you're like, you're dead. I'll kill you myself. I'll climb into the TV and kill you myself. And that's just a testament to her.
The point of no return for me was the Eden thing, when Nick told her that he was worried about June, and she's like, "Oh, I shall marry you to a child." I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Anyway, but there's a lot of points of no return after that. So
the 9 month into
pregnancy, 9 month rape.
That was it for me. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's I feel like that should have been it for everyone, but Yvonne, I think.
Yvonne, oh god, it's amazing. She makes you feel bad for her, and then you realize, oh shit, you're Serena, and you're like, Yvonne, stop being so good.
Yvonne's magical. She's an incredible human, and she's insanely smart.
I just can't believe she hasn't won an air. If she doesn't win this season, I'd be so I don't know.
Well, it's not because she doesn't deserve it, because she does.
Exactly. Yeah.
She is incredible.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for doing this.
Awesome.
We love you guys so much. You're our favorites ever. I say ever a lot, and I'm not always. That must be confusing, your name, but it's very pretty.
I've gotten used to it, but yes. Ever, can I ever, will I ever, forever,
whatever, like you said, forever earlier.
Ready, everlasting.
And Kunken just has this all the same.
Oh my god, all the time.
Calcula, Sir Kunks a lot, Kunkenstein. You have a lot of names in my house. Chaplain calls you Count Kunkula, just so you know.
Kunken Donuts. Yeah.
Oh, Kunken Donuts. I really like Sir Kunks a lot. That's my favorite. But
what's Big Skunks? What's that from? Where did you get
it just,
that?
last name is Kunk, Stephen Kunk. And so it was a nickname. So S. Kunken always became Skunk. And then it was like Big Skunks became my name.
You could have asked me that, Kimberly. I could have.
I know. I'm sorry.
I like Pepe Le Pew also. Pepe Le Pew was one of my favorite,
he's a delightful character. All right. For real, we're wrapping. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful
you guys were amazing.
to meet you.
Being awesome and fans.
Yeah, seriously.
Thank you. You guys are so awesome.
Thanks for making a show worthy of it. But we will follow all of your shows in the future. So hopefully we can talk again sometime.
Yeah.
Bye.
Find us.
Bye.
Bye, you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, you guys. Thank you.